She called me pathetic in front of her mother. My name is Max. I am 37 years old and I used to run quality control at Thornbrae Systems, a manufacturing plant outside Portland, Oregon. I had been married to Vanessa for 11 years. We had a daughter named Sophie who was 8 years old at the time. I thought I had built something solid, a good job, a decent house, a family that mattered. I was wrong. The first time I noticed something off was about 4 months before everything collapsed. Vanessa started coming home later than usual. She worked as an office manager at a logistics company downtown, and her hours had never been unpredictable before. But suddenly there were late meetings, urgent client calls, weekend emails that required her full attention in the other room. I did not say much. I figured it was stress, work pressure, maybe even ambition. She had always wanted more than what we had, and I respected that about her. I worked long shifts at the plant, sometimes pulling doubles when orders came in heavy. I was tired most nights. I did not push, but the distance grew. She stopped asking about my day, stopped sitting with me after Sophie went to bed. When I reached for her hand across the table, she would move it to pick up her phone. Small things, quiet things. The kind of things you tell yourself do not mean anything until they do. One night in late February, I came home early. My shift supervisor sent me off because a machine broke down, and there was nothing for me to do until the technician arrived the next morning. I walked into the house around 6 in the evening, expecting to find Vanessa and Sophie eating dinner or watching something on the couch. The house was quiet. I called out. No answer. I went upstairs and saw Sophie asleep in her room, still in her school clothes. I shook my head and covered her with a blanket. Then I walked toward the bedroom. The door was cracked open. I heard voices, low, comfortable. I pushed the door open wider. Vanessa was sitting on the edge of the bed, phone pressed to her ear. She was smiling. Not the polite smile she gave me when I asked her how her day went. A real smile, the kind she used to give me years ago. She saw me and her expression changed instantly. Flat. Cold. I have to go, she said into the phone. Then she hung up. Who was that? I asked. A friend, she said. What kind of friend? She stood up and crossed her arms. Does it matter? Yeah, I said. It does. She looked at me like I was boring her, like I was an interruption. You are always so suspicious, Max. It is exhausting. I did not argue. I turned around and left the room. My hands were shaking. I went downstairs and sat in the dark for a while. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to think I was imagining things. But something in my gut told me I was not. 2 weeks later, I found a receipt in her coat pocket. Dinner for 2 at a restaurant downtown. Expensive. The kind of place we had not been to in years. The date on the receipt was a Thursday night. She had told me she was working late that Thursday. I asked her about it the next morning. She barely looked up from her coffee. I had a work dinner with a client. What is the big deal? You did not mention it. I do not have to report every meal to you, Max. Her tone was sharp, dismissive, like I was the one being unreasonable. I let it go. I did not want to fight. I did not want to be that husband. But the weight in my chest stayed. It followed me to work. It sat with me during my shifts. It made me quiet around Sophie. Vanessa started staying out later. Sometimes she did not come home until after midnight. When I asked where she had been, she would say she was out with coworkers, or that she had stopped by her sister's house. Her answers were vague, just detailed enough to sound real. But I knew. One Saturday morning, I woke up and found her already dressed. She was putting on earrings in the bathroom mirror. I asked where she was going. Out, she said. Where? Does it matter? Yeah, it does. She turned to look at me. Her face was hard. You need to stop acting like I owe you an explanation for everything I do. I am your husband. Barely, she said. The word hit me like a fist. I stood there not knowing what to say. She walked past me and grabbed her purse from the dresser. Then she left. I heard the front door close. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the floor. Sophie came into the room a few minutes later. She climbed onto the bed and leaned against me. "Is Mom mad?" she asked. "No, sweetheart," I said. "She's just busy." "She is always busy," Sophie said quietly. I did not have an answer for that. The next few weeks were worse. Vanessa barely spoke to me. When she did, it was short, clipped. She spent most of her time in the other room on her phone. She started locking the bathroom door when she showered. She changed her phone passcode. I did not confront her. I did not yell. I just watched and waited. Part of me hoped I was wrong. Part of me knew I was not. Then one night in early April, she came home late again. I was sitting in the living room with the lights off. She walked in and froze when she saw me. "We need to talk," I said. She sighed. "Not tonight, Max." "Yes, tonight." She dropped her purse on the couch and crossed her arms. "Fine." "What?" "Who is he?" Her face did not change. She did not flinch. She did not deny it. "His name is Troy," she said, "and I am in love with him." The room felt smaller, colder. I did not say anything. I just sat there. She turned and walked upstairs. I heard the bedroom door close. That was the moment I knew it was over. Vanessa and I met in college. I was 23. She was 22. We were at a party in some cramped apartment off campus. I was not much of a party person, but my roommate dragged me along. Vanessa was sitting on the kitchen counter laughing with a group of friends. She had this energy about her. Bright, confident. I liked that. We started talking. She told me she was studying business administration. I told her I was finishing up a degree in industrial engineering. She made a joke about how boring that sounded. I laughed. We exchanged numbers. A week later, we went out for coffee. Things moved fast after that. Within 6 months, we were inseparable. Within a year, we were talking about the future, marriage, kids, a house somewhere quiet. She wanted stability. I wanted to give it to her. We got married when I was 26, small ceremony, her family, my parents, a handful of friends. It was simple. It felt right. Sophie came 2 years later. I remember holding her in the hospital room and thinking I had everything I needed. Vanessa looked tired but happy. We took pictures. We made promises. We said we would always put Sophie first. For a while we did. I worked hard. I moved up at Thornbrae Systems from floor technician to quality control supervisor. The pay was decent. Enough to cover the mortgage. Enough to put Sophie in a good school. Enough to take Vanessa out to dinner once in a while. But it was never enough for her. She wanted more. A bigger house. A nicer car. Vacations we could not afford. I tried to explain that we were doing fine. That we just needed to be patient. She would nod and say she understood. But I could see the frustration in her eyes. Somewhere along the way, I became the thing standing between her and the life she wanted. I did not see it at first. I thought we were just going through a rough patch. Marriage is work. Everyone says that. So I worked. I picked up extra shifts. I fixed things around the house. I made breakfast for Sophie every morning before school. I tried to be present, but Vanessa was already gone. The signs were all there. I just did not want to see them. She stopped wearing her wedding ring. She said it was uncomfortable, that it kept getting caught on things. I did not argue. I told myself it was not a big deal. She started working out more, buying new clothes, doing her makeup differently. I thought maybe she was just taking care of herself, trying to feel good. I did not question it. Then there were the phone calls, always in the other room, always with the door closed. When I asked who she was talking to, she would say it was her sister, or a friend from work, or someone from Sophie's school. I wanted to believe her. One night I asked her if everything was okay, if we were okay. She looked at me like I was interrupting her. "We are fine, Max," she said. "Stop overthinking everything." But we were not fine. Her mother started coming around more. Judith. Cold woman. Never liked me. She always thought Vanessa could have done better. Married someone with more money, more ambition, someone who wore a suit to work instead of steel-toed boots. Judith would sit in our kitchen and talk to Vanessa like I was not there. She would mention men from her church group, successful men, men with real careers, men who knew how to take care of a woman. Vanessa never told her to stop. I spent more time at work. It was easier. At the plant, I knew what I was doing. I knew how to fix things. At home, I felt useless. Sophie was the only bright spot. She would run to the door when I came home. She would show me her drawings, tell me about her day, ask me to help her with homework. I held on to those moments. They were the only thing keeping me steady. But Vanessa pulled away from Sophie too. She stopped going to parent-teacher meetings, stopped helping with school projects, stopped reading to her at night. When I asked her about it, she said she was tired, that she had been dealing with Sophie all day, that I could handle it. So I did. I became both parents. I packed Sophie's lunch. I braided her hair. I went to her soccer games alone while Vanessa stayed home or went out with friends. Sophie never said anything, but I could see it in her eyes. She noticed. One afternoon, I picked Sophie up from school and she asked me if her mom still loved us. I did not know how to answer that. Of course she does, I said. She is just going through a lot right now. Sophie nodded, but she did not look convinced. That night, I tried talking to Vanessa again. I told her Sophie was asking questions, that she was worried, that we needed to spend more time together as a family. Vanessa looked at me like I was naive. Sophie is fine, she said. You are the one making this a bigger deal than it is. She is 8 years old, Vanessa. She notices things. Then stop putting ideas in her head. I stared at her. I did not recognize the woman in front of me. What happened to you? I asked. She did not answer. She just walked away. A week later, I found another receipt. This one was for a hotel. 2 nights, downtown Portland. The dates matched a weekend when she told me she was visiting a friend in Seattle. I did not confront her. Not yet. I just folded the receipt and put it in my wallet. I started keeping track. Receipts. Text messages she left open on the kitchen counter. Dates she said she was working late that did not match her work calendar on the fridge. I was not trying to catch her. I was trying to understand, but the more I found, the worse it got. Troy. That was his name. I saw it pop up on her phone one morning when she left it on the table. A message. Something about meeting later. A heart emoji. I felt sick. I did not say anything. I just picked up my keys and left for work. That was 2 months before she finally told me. The night Vanessa told me about Troy, I did not sleep. I sat in the living room until the sun came up. My mind was racing. I kept replaying everything. Every lie. Every excuse. Every time I had let something slide because I did not want to believe the truth. I thought about Sophie. About what this would do to her. About how I was supposed to explain that her mother was in love with someone else. I thought about the house, the mortgage we still owed, the car payments, the life we had built together that was now falling apart. But mostly, I thought about how stupid I had been. The next morning, I called in sick to work. I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and waited for Vanessa to come downstairs. She walked in around 8, already dressed for work. She saw me and stopped. I am leaving you, she said. No preamble, no hesitation. I know, I said. She looked surprised, like she expected me to fight, to beg, to ask her to stay. I did not. I already talked to a lawyer, she said. I am filing for divorce. Okay. I want the house. I looked up at her. What? I want the house, she repeated. And half of everything else. Your retirement, your savings. Sophie stays with me. My hands tightened around the coffee mug. You think you are getting Sophie? I am her mother. You have not been a mother to her in months. Her face hardened. Do not start, Max. I am not starting anything. I am just telling you the truth. She grabbed her purse from the counter. My lawyer will be in touch. Then she left. I sat there for a long time. I felt hollow, like someone had reached inside me and pulled everything out. I called a lawyer that afternoon. His name was Gregory. He was recommended by a guy I worked with who had gone through a divorce a few years back. Gregory told me to come in the next day. I showed up at his office with a folder full of receipts, bank statements, text messages I had screenshotted from Vanessa's phone when she left it unlocked one night, dates, times, evidence. Gregory looked through everything. He was quiet for a while. Then he leaned back in his chair. "This is good," he said, "but it is going to get ugly. I know. She is going to fight you on everything, the house, the assets, custody. What are my chances? With this?" He tapped the folder. "Better than most. But you need to be prepared. This is not going to be quick, and it is not going to be cheap." I nodded. I did not care about quick. I did not care about cheap. I just wanted to make sure Sophie was okay. The divorce dragged on for 8 months. Vanessa hired a lawyer who made Gregory look like a saint. Her guy was ruthless. He painted me as a neglectful husband, a workaholic who put his job before his family. He twisted everything. Vanessa played her part well. She cried in court. She talked about how hard she had tried to make the marriage work, how I was never home, how I never listened, how she felt alone. The judge seemed sympathetic. I sat there and took it. I did not interrupt. I did not defend myself. Gregory told me to stay calm, to let the evidence speak. But it was hard, watching her lie, watching her rewrite history, watching her play the victim. Troy showed up to one of the hearings. He sat in the back row. Vanessa glanced at him once and smiled. I felt my jaw tighten. Gregory put a hand on my arm. "Do not," he said quietly. I did not. The custody battle was the worst part. Vanessa fought me on everything. She wanted full custody. She wanted me to have supervised visitation. She told the court I was unstable, that I had anger issues, that Sophie was scared of me. It was a lie, all of it. Sophie was called in for an interview with a family therapist. I was not allowed to be there. Neither was Vanessa. The therapist asked Sophie questions about both of us, about how she felt, about where she wanted to live. I did not know what Sophie said. But 2 weeks later, Gregory called me. The therapist recommended joint custody, he said, but she noted that Sophie expressed a preference to stay with you. I exhaled. I had not realized I was holding my breath. "That is good?" I asked. "That is very good." The financial side of the divorce was brutal. Vanessa wanted half of everything: my retirement fund, my savings, the equity in the house. Gregory fought back. He presented the evidence of her affair. He showed the receipts, the hotel stays, the expensive dinners. The judge was not pleased. Vanessa's lawyer tried to argue that the affair was irrelevant, that it had no bearing on the division of assets. But the judge disagreed. He said Vanessa's behavior demonstrated a pattern of dishonesty and financial irresponsibility. In the end, I kept most of my retirement. I kept my savings. The house was sold, and we split the proceeds. Sophie would live with me during the school year and spend summers with Vanessa. It was not perfect, but it was fair. The final hearing was set for late November. I walked into the courtroom feeling exhausted. I had spent the last 8 months fighting. I had spent thousands of dollars. I had missed work. I had barely slept. But I had won. Vanessa sat on the other side of the room with her lawyer. Troy was not there this time. I wondered if he had already gotten bored, if he had moved on to someone else. The judge read through the final terms: custody, assets, support payments. Everything was laid out, clear, legal, done. Vanessa did not look at me. She stared straight ahead. Her jaw was tight. Her hands were folded in her lap. When the judge dismissed us, I stood up and walked out. I did not look back. I did not say anything. I just left. Gregory caught up with me in the hallway. "You did good, Max," he said. "Thanks. Take care of yourself. And take care of that kid." "I will." I walked to my truck and sat in the driver's seat for a while. I stared at the steering wheel. I felt empty, relieved, angry, sad, everything at once. Then I started the engine and drove home. Sophie was waiting for me. She ran to the door when I walked in. "Is it over?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "It is over." She hugged me. I held her tight. It was over. But I knew this was just the beginning. The first year after the divorce was quiet. Too quiet. I focused on Sophie, on making sure she felt stable, safe, loved. I kept the same routines. Breakfast every morning, homework after school, dinner together at the table. No phones, no distractions, just us. She was doing okay. Better than I expected. She talked about school, about her friends, about the things that mattered to 8-year-olds. She did not talk about her mother much. I did not push. Vanessa called once a week. Sometimes Sophie answered. Sometimes she did not. The conversations were short when they happened. Polite, distant, like talking to a stranger. I went back to work at Thornbray Systems. My supervisor was understanding. He had kids of his own. He knew what divorce could do to a man. He gave me the flexibility I needed. I worked my shifts. I came home. I did not stay late anymore. Money was tight. The legal fees had cleaned me out. I had my salary and not much else. The savings I had fought to keep were gone within 6 months. Rent on a small 2-bedroom apartment, groceries, Sophie's school supplies, dance classes she wanted to take. It all added up. I stopped going out. Stopped spending money on anything that was not necessary. I ate cheap. I drove an old truck that barely ran. I wore the same clothes until they fell apart. But Sophie had what she needed. That was all that mattered. One night in late January, about 14 months after the divorce was finalized, I got a call from Gregory. I had not heard from him in months. I figured he was calling about some final paperwork, something I had forgotten to sign. "Max," he said, "we need to talk." His tone was off, serious. "What is it?" I asked. "Vanessa filed a motion. She is trying to modify the custody agreement." My stomach dropped. "What?" "She claims there has been a significant change in circumstances. She is asking for full custody of Sophie." I stood up from the couch. My hands were shaking. "On what grounds?" "She says you are financially unstable, that you cannot provide a suitable living environment, that Sophie would be better off with her." "That is bullshit." "I know. But we have to respond. She has a hearing scheduled in 3 weeks." I sat back down. I felt like I had been punched in the chest. "How much is this going to cost?" I asked. Gregory hesitated. "A few thousand, maybe more depending on how long it drags out." I did not have a few thousand. I barely had a few hundred. "Okay," I said. "Do what you need to do." "Max, I need a retainer up front." "I will get it to you." I hung up. I stared at the wall for a long time. I did not know where I was going to get the money. I had already borrowed from my parents during the first divorce. They did not have anything left to give. I did not have friends with that kind of cash lying around. I thought about taking out a loan, but my credit was shot. I thought about asking for an advance at work, but I had already done that twice. I felt trapped. The next day I went to the hearing alone. I could not afford to bring Gregory. He told me he would prepare the paperwork, but I had to represent myself in court. He walked me through what to say, what not to say, how to stay calm. Vanessa showed up with her lawyer, the same guy from before. He looked smug, confident, like this was already decided. The judge asked Vanessa to explain her motion. She stood up. She was dressed well, hair done, makeup perfect. She looked like she had her life together. "Your Honor," she said, "I am concerned about my daughter's welfare. Her father is struggling financially. He lives in a small apartment. He works long hours. He cannot provide the stability she needs." The judge looked at me. "Mr. Max, do you have a response?" I stood up. My mouth was dry. Your Honor, I work hard to provide for my daughter. She has everything she needs. A roof over her head, food, clothes. She is happy. She is doing well in school. I am doing my best. Your best is not good enough, Vanessa's lawyer said. Our client has remarried. She lives in a 4-bedroom home. She has the resources to give Sophie a better life. I looked at Vanessa. You remarried? She did not look at me. She stared straight ahead. Yes, her lawyer said. She married Mr. Troy 6 months ago. He is a successful financial consultant. They can provide Sophie with opportunities you cannot. The judge looked at the paperwork in front of him. He was quiet for a moment. Then he looked up. I am going to order a home evaluation, he said. A social worker will visit both residences and interview both parents. We will reconvene in 60 days. I felt a small flicker of hope. At least it was not over yet. Thank you, Your Honor, I said. Vanessa stood up and walked out without looking at me. Troy was waiting for her in the hallway. I saw them through the courtroom window. He put his arm around her. She leaned into him. I felt sick. The home evaluation happened 2 weeks later. A woman named Patricia came to my apartment. She was polite but thorough. She asked me questions about my job, my income, my relationship with Sophie. She walked through the apartment, checked the bedrooms, the kitchen, the bathroom. Sophie was there. Patricia asked her questions too. Asked if she felt safe, if she was happy, if she had everything she needed. Sophie told her yes. She told her she liked living with me, that I made her breakfast every morning, that I helped her with homework, that we watched movies together on Friday nights. Patricia smiled. She wrote notes on her clipboard. Thank you, Sophie, she said. You can go play now. Sophie left the room. Patricia turned to me. You're doing a good job, she said quietly. Thank you. I will submit my report to the court in a few weeks. She left. I sat down on the couch and exhaled. I felt like I could breathe again. But 2 days later, I got another call from Gregory. Max, we have a problem. What now? Vanessa submitted financial documents to the court. She is claiming you owe her money. Back support payments. She says you have been late on payments for the last 6 months. That is not true. I have proof. I have bank statements. Send them to me, all of them. We need to shut this down fast. I spent the next 3 days gathering every bank statement, every receipt, every proof of payment I had. I sent them to Gregory. He reviewed them and called me back. You are clean, he said. She is lying. But this is a tactic. She is trying to make you look irresponsible. Is it going to work? Not if I can help it. The next hearing was worse. Vanessa's lawyer attacked me. He questioned my character, my work ethic, my ability to parent. He brought up the fact that I had missed one of Sophie's school events because I had to work a double shift. I tried to explain. The judge listened, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. Patricia's report was submitted. It was mostly positive. She noted that Sophie was well cared for, that I was attentive and involved, but she also noted that my financial situation was unstable, that Vanessa's home was objectively more comfortable. The judge read through the report. Then he looked at both of us. I am going to take this under advisement, he said. I will issue my ruling in 2 weeks. I left the courtroom feeling defeated. I had done everything right. I had fought. I had shown up. I had been honest. But I knew it might not be enough. Gregory pulled me aside in the hallway. Max, I need to be honest with you. This could go either way. I know. If you lose, you will still have visitation, but it will be limited. I cannot lose her, Gregory. He put a hand on my shoulder. Then we need to be ready for the next fight. I nodded. But I did not know how much more fight I had left in me. I did not sleep for the next 2 weeks. I went to work. I came home. I spent time with Sophie, but my mind was somewhere else. I kept replaying the hearing, kept thinking about what I could have said differently, what I could have done better. Sophie noticed. She asked me if I was okay. I told her I was fine. I told her everything was going to be okay. I did not know if that was true. The night before the ruling, I sat in my truck outside the apartment for a long time. I stared at the dashboard. I thought about calling my parents, about telling them what was happening, but I did not want to worry them. They had already been through enough. I thought about Vanessa, about how she had rebuilt her life so easily, about how she had moved on without looking back, about how she had Troy and money and a big house, and I had nothing. The next morning, I walked into the courtroom. Vanessa was already there. Troy was sitting next to her. He looked uncomfortable, like he did not want to be there. The judge walked in. Everyone stood. Then we sat down. He looked at both of us. Then he started reading from a document in front of him. After reviewing the evidence and the home evaluation report, I have made my decision regarding the custody modification request. My heart was pounding. While I acknowledge that the father has made efforts to provide a stable environment for the minor child, I find that the mother's current living situation offers greater financial stability and resources. No. Therefore, I am granting the mother's request for primary physical custody. The father will retain visitation rights every other weekend and alternating holidays. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. Your Honor, I said. My voice was shaking. Please. I am her father. She is happy with me. She wants to stay with me. The judge looked at me. His expression softened slightly. I understand this is difficult, Mr. Max, but my decision is based on what I believe is in the best interest of the child. She needs stability. The mother can provide that. I can provide that. The court has made its ruling. He stood up and left. I sat there. I could not move. I could not breathe. Vanessa stood up. She looked at me. For a second, I thought I saw something in her eyes. Guilt, maybe. Or pity. But then it was gone. She turned and walked out with Troy. Gregory sat down next to me. I am sorry, Max. I did not say anything. I just stared at the table. We can appeal, but it is going to be expensive, and there is no guarantee we will win. I do not have the money. I know. I stood up. I walked out of the courtroom. I did not look back. I drove home. I sat in the apartment. I did not know what to do. I did not know how to tell Sophie. I did not know how to explain that she had to leave, that she had to go live with her mother. She came home from school that afternoon. She dropped her backpack by the door and looked at me. What happened? She asked. I told her. I tried to stay calm. I tried to make it sound like it was not a big deal, like we would still see each other all the time. She cried. I held her. I told her I was sorry. I told her I tried everything. I do not want to go, she said. I know, sweetheart, but we do not have a choice right now. Can we fight it? I am trying, but it is going to take time. She pulled away from me. She wiped her eyes. I hate her. Do not say that. I do. I hate her for doing this. I did not argue. I just held her again. Vanessa picked Sophie up 2 days later. She came to the apartment with Troy. He stayed in the car. Vanessa knocked on the door. I opened it. Is she ready? Vanessa asked. Yeah. Sophie came to the door with a suitcase. She looked at her mother. Then she looked at me. I love you, Dad. I love you too. She walked out. I stood in the doorway and watched her get into the car. She did not look back. The car pulled away. I closed the door. I sat on the couch. I did not move for hours. The next few weeks were the hardest of my life. I went to work. I came home to an empty apartment. I ate alone. I slept alone. I felt like I had lost everything. I called Sophie every night. Sometimes she answered, sometimes Vanessa said she was busy. When we did talk, the conversations were short, strained. Sophie sounded different, distant. I asked if she was okay. She said she was fine, but I could hear it in her voice. She was not fine. One night I could not sleep. I sat at my kitchen table with a notebook. I started writing. I wrote down everything that had happened, every lie Vanessa had told, every time she had manipulated the court, every piece of evidence I had. And then I started thinking. I thought about Troy, about how he had money, about how he had helped Vanessa win, about how easy it had been for them. I thought about the judge, about how he had looked at me like I was not good enough, like I did not deserve my own daughter. I thought about the system, about how it was rigged against men like me, men who worked hard but did not have money, men who loved their kids but could not afford expensive lawyers. And I got angry. Not the kind of anger that makes you yell or break things. The quiet kind. The kind that sits in your chest and burns. The kind that makes you think. I started doing research. I looked into Troy's company. I found his business profile online. Financial consultant. He worked for a firm called Hollowgate Systems. Big name. Lots of clients. I kept digging. I found articles, press releases, a few mentions in business journals. He was successful, no question about that. But then I found something else. A complaint. Filed with the State Financial Regulatory Board. A client had accused Troy of misrepresenting investment risks. The complaint was dismissed, but it was there, public record. I kept looking. I found another complaint, then another. All dismissed. All swept under the rug. I saved everything. I printed it out. I put it in a folder. I did not know what I was going to do with it yet. But I knew it was important. I called Gregory the next day. I need your advice, I said. About what? If I found evidence that Vanessa's husband was involved in something unethical, could that impact the custody ruling? Gregory was quiet for a moment. It depends on what kind of evidence. If it shows he is unfit to be around Sophie, maybe. But it would have to be serious. What if it shows he lied about his finances? That could work. But you would need proof. Real proof. Not just speculation. I am working on it. Max, be careful. If you go down this road, you need to be sure. If you are wrong, it could backfire. I know. I hung up. I stared at the folder on my table. I was not wrong. I just needed to prove it. I spent the next 3 months digging into Troy's life. I became obsessed. I worked my shifts at Thornbrae Systems, but every spare moment was spent researching. I learned everything I could about him. His business, his clients, his history. I found out he had worked at 3 different firms in the last 10 years. That was a red flag. Financial consultants do not jump around that much unless something is wrong. I started calling his former employers. I did not tell them who I was. I said I was considering hiring him. I asked questions. Most people were polite but vague. They did not want to say anything negative. But one woman was different. Her name was Janet. She had worked with Troy at his previous firm. When I asked about him, she hesitated. "Can I be honest with you?" she asked. "Please." "He is good at what he does, but he cuts corners. He pushes clients into high-risk investments because the commissions are better. A lot of people lost money because of him. Why did he leave? He was asked to resign quietly. The firm did not want a scandal." I thanked her and hung up. I wrote down everything she said. I kept digging. I found more complaints, more clients who had lost money. None of it had gone anywhere. Troy had always managed to settle quietly, to make things go away. But the pattern was clear. I took everything I had to Gregory. I laid it out on his desk. The complaints, the phone call notes, the articles, everything. He read through it carefully. Then he looked up at me. "This is good, Max, but it is not enough." "What do you mean?" "You have complaints. You have anecdotes. But you do not have hard evidence. You do not have financial records. You do not have proof that he did anything illegal." "So what do I do?" Gregory leaned back in his chair. "You need to find someone who lost serious money because of him. Someone who is willing to talk. Someone who can testify. How do I find that person?" Start with the complaints. Track down the people who filed them. See if any of them are willing to help. I left his office and got to work. I pulled up the complaint records. I found names, addresses, phone numbers. I started calling. Most people did not want to talk. Some hung up on me. Some said they had moved on. Some said they did not want to relive it. But one man agreed to meet me. His name was Leonard. He was in his 60s. He lived in a small house outside Portland. I drove out to see him on a Saturday morning. He invited me in. We sat in his living room. He looked tired, worn down. "What do you want to know?" he asked. "I want to know what Troy did to you." Leonard sighed. "He convinced me to invest my retirement savings in a high-risk portfolio. He said it was safe. He said I would see returns in a year. He showed me projections, numbers. It all looked good. What happened? I lost everything. The investments tanked. When I tried to get my money back, he told me it was my fault, that I had signed the paperwork, that I knew the risks. Did you file a complaint? Yes, but nothing came of it. He had lawyers, good lawyers. They made it go away." I pulled out a notebook. "Would you be willing to testify?" Leonard looked at me. "Why?" "Because he married my ex-wife. Because he is living in a house that I helped pay for. Because the court gave him custody of my daughter based on his financial stability, and I think that stability is built on lies." Leonard was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. "Yes, I will testify." I left his house with a signed statement. I took it to Gregory. He read it and smiled. "This is what we needed," he said. "So what now?" "Now we file a motion. We request a review of the custody ruling based on new evidence. We argue that the court was misled about Troy's financial stability and character." "How long will it take?" "A few months, maybe longer, but we have a real shot now." I felt something I had not felt in a long time. Hope. I kept working. I kept gathering evidence. I found 2 more clients who were willing to talk. One of them had lost his business because of Troy's advice. The other had lost her savings. I documented everything. I built a case. I spent every dollar I had left on legal fees. I borrowed money from a coworker. I sold my truck and bought a cheaper one. I did whatever it took. And then I made a decision. I was done being the guy who just survived. I was done being the guy who got stepped on. I was done playing defense. I started thinking about my own future, about what I wanted, about what I could build. I had been working at Thornbrae Systems for over a decade. I knew the business inside and out. I knew how to manage quality control. I knew how to run a team. I knew how to solve problems. I started thinking about starting my own consulting business. Small manufacturing companies needed people like me, people who could help them improve their processes, reduce waste, increase efficiency. I did not have capital, but I had knowledge, I had experience, I had connections. I started making calls. I reached out to former colleagues. I reached out to suppliers I had worked with over the years. I asked if they knew anyone who needed help. One guy bit. His name was Calvin. He ran a small metal fabrication shop in Eugene. He was struggling. His rejection rates were too high. His costs were too high. He was on the verge of closing. I drove down to see him. I walked through his shop. I watched his processes. I asked questions. Then I told him what I could do. I told him I could cut his rejection rate in half within 6 months. I told him I could save him money. I told him I could help him stay in business. "How much?" he asked. "5,000 up front, then a percentage of the savings I deliver." He thought about it. Then he shook my hand. "Deal." I spent the next 6 months working 2 jobs. I worked my shifts at Thornbrae during the day. Then I drove to Eugene and worked at Calvin's shop at night and on weekends. I was exhausted, but I was also alive again. I was building something. I was proving something, and it worked. Within 3 months, Calvin's rejection rate dropped by 40%. Within 6 months, it was down by 60%. He was saving thousands of dollars a month. He paid me. And then he told his friends, other small shop owners, other guys who were struggling. I got 3 more clients, then 5, then 10. I quit my job at Thornbrae. I went full-time with my own business. I called it MaxCore Consulting. Simple name, honest name. I worked harder than I ever had. But it was different now. I was working for myself, for my daughter, for my future. The money started coming in. Not a lot at first, but enough. Enough to pay the legal fees. Enough to rent a better apartment. Enough to buy Sophie gifts. Enough to feel like I was back on my feet. And then Gregory called. "We have a court date," he said. 3 weeks from now. The judge agreed to review the custody ruling. Are we ready? We are ready. But Max, you need to be prepared. This is not going to be easy. Vanessa is going to fight. Troy is going to fight. They are going to try to discredit you. Let them try. There is one more thing, Gregory said. You need to show the judge that you are stable now, that you have turned things around. Bring financial statements. Bring proof of income. Show him that you are not the same man you were a year ago. I will. I hung up. I looked around my new apartment. It was not much, but it was mine. I had earned it. I pulled out my laptop and started preparing. I printed out client contracts, income statements, bank records showing steady deposits. I was ready. The courtroom felt different this time. I walked in wearing a suit I had bought 2 days earlier. Nothing fancy, but clean, professional. I carried a leather folder with all my documents organized inside. Vanessa was already seated. She looked at me and her expression changed. Surprise, then confusion, then something else. She leaned over and whispered something to Troy. He turned to look at me. His face went pale. I sat down next to Gregory. He glanced at me and nodded. You look good, he said quietly. I feel good. The judge entered. Everyone stood. Then we sat. The judge looked at both sides. We are here to review the custody modification ruling based on newly submitted evidence. Mr. Gregory, you may proceed. Gregory stood up. Thank you, Your Honor. We have significant new information regarding the financial stability and character of Mr. Troy, who was a key factor in the original ruling. He presented the complaints, the statements from Leonard and the other clients, the pattern of misrepresentation and high-risk investments that had cost people their savings. Vanessa's lawyer objected multiple times, but the judge allowed the evidence. Then Gregory called Leonard to testify. Leonard walked to the stand. He was sworn in. He told his story. He explained how Troy had lied to him, how he had lost everything. Troy shifted in his seat. His jaw was tight. Vanessa's lawyer tried to discredit Leonard. He suggested Leonard had made poor decisions on his own, that he was looking for someone to blame. But Leonard held firm. I trusted him. He lied to me, and I am not the only one. Gregory called the next witness, then the next. 3 people. 3 stories. All the same pattern. The judge listened carefully. He took notes. His expression was unreadable. Then it was my turn. Gregory called me to the stand. I walked up and sat down. I looked at Vanessa. She would not meet my eyes. Gregory asked me about my business, about MaxCore Consulting, about my income, about my stability. I answered every question clearly. I provided financial statements. I provided client contracts. I showed that I was now making more money than I had been at Thornbrae, that I had stability, that I could provide for Sophie. Your Honor, Gregory said, Mr. Max has rebuilt his life. He has created a successful business. He is financially stable. More importantly, he has always been the parent who put Sophie first. The original ruling was based on misleading information about Mr. Troy's character and finances. We respectfully request that the court reconsider. The judge looked at Vanessa's lawyer. Do you have any rebuttal? Vanessa's lawyer stood up. He tried. He argued that Troy's professional issues were irrelevant, that Vanessa was still the better option, that my business was too new to be considered stable. But his argument sounded weak, desperate. The judge raised his hand. I have heard enough. He looked at the documents in front of him. The courtroom was silent. I made my original ruling based on the information available at the time, the judge said. However, the evidence presented today raises serious concerns about the representations made regarding the mother's household and financial stability. Vanessa closed her eyes. Furthermore, the judge continued, I am impressed by the father's efforts to improve his situation. He has demonstrated resilience and commitment to his daughter. He paused. Then he looked directly at me. I am reversing my previous ruling. Primary physical custody is hereby granted to the father. The mother will retain visitation rights. I felt my chest tighten. I could not breathe for a second. Vanessa stood up. Your Honor, please. My decision is final, the judge said. This court is adjourned. He stood and left. I sat there. I could not move. Gregory put his hand on my shoulder. You did it, he said. I looked across the room. Vanessa was crying. Troy had his head in his hands. Her lawyer was packing his briefcase with quick, frustrated movements. Vanessa looked at me. Her eyes were red. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something, but nothing came out. I stood up. I walked past her. I did not stop. I did not look back. Outside, the sun was bright. I stood on the courthouse steps and just breathed. I had won. I picked Sophie up from school that afternoon. She was standing outside with her backpack waiting. When she saw me, she looked confused. Dad? What are you doing here? Get in the truck, I said. We need to talk. She climbed in. I pulled away from the school and drove to a park nearby. We sat on a bench overlooking a small pond. What is going on? She asked. You are coming home, I said. Her eyes widened. What? The judge changed his ruling. You are going to live with me again. She stared at me for a long moment. Then she threw her arms around me and started crying. I missed you so much, she said. I missed you too, sweetheart. We sat there for a while. She asked me questions. I told her everything. I told her about the case, about the evidence, about how I had fought to get her back. Did you really start your own company? She asked. I did. That is so cool, I smiled. It is a lot of work, but it is worth it. We drove back to the apartment. Well, the new apartment. The better one. Sophie looked around and her face lit up. This is way nicer than the old place, she said. I know. I wanted you to have a real home. She walked through the rooms. She saw the bedroom I had set up for her. The bed with the purple comforter she had always wanted. The desk for homework. The bookshelf I had built myself. She turned to me. Thank you, Dad. You do not have to thank me. You are my daughter. I would do anything for you. That night I made dinner. We ate together at the table. She told me about school, about her friends, about everything I had missed. I listened. I just listened. And I felt whole again. Over the next few weeks, we fell back into our routine. Breakfast every morning. Homework after school. Dinner together. Friday movie nights. Sophie was happy. I could see it in her eyes. She laughed more. She talked more. She was herself again. Vanessa called a few times. Sophie talked to her. The conversations were polite but short. Vanessa asked when she could see her. Sophie said she did not know. She said she needed time. I did not push her either way. That was her decision to make. MaxCore Consulting kept growing. I hired 2 employees, both guys I had worked with at Thornbray. Good people, hard workers. We took on bigger clients. We expanded into new areas. The money was better than I ever thought it would be. I paid off my debts. I put money into savings. I even started a college fund for Sophie. One evening, I was sitting at my desk going through invoices when Sophie walked in. Dad, can I ask you something? Of course. Are you happy? I looked at her. Yeah, I am. Good. You deserve to be happy. I smiled. So do you, kiddo. She hugged me and went back to her room. I sat there for a moment. I thought about everything that had happened. The divorce, the custody battle, the pain, the struggle, but also the fight, the rebuilding, the victory. I thought about Vanessa. I had heard through a mutual acquaintance that she and Troy were having problems, that his business was under investigation, that clients were pulling out, that their big house was on the market. I did not feel bad for them. I did not feel anything at all. I thought about the judge, about how he had looked at me in that final hearing, not with pity, not with doubt, with respect. I thought about Sophie, about how she was thriving, about how she had her father back, and I realized something. I had not just won custody. I had won my life back. I had proven that I was not the man Vanessa thought I was, not the man the first judge thought I was. I was stronger than that. I was better than that. Vanessa and Troy eventually separated. The investigation into his business practices led to his license being suspended. He lost most of his clients. The house was foreclosed on within a year. Vanessa moved into a small apartment on the other side of town. She worked part-time at a retail store. She saw Sophie once a month, if that. Troy disappeared entirely. I heard he moved to another state. Nobody knew where. Nobody cared. I learned that sometimes the best revenge is just refusing to stay down.